Denver Broncos traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills a dominant win here, 31-7. Let's take a look at the top 5 graded players from the Buffalo Bills that we had in this game. Edge rusher Von Miller. That's right, Dalton, at the very top of the list, an 88.8. Linebacker Matt Milano at an 86.3. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel, an 82.8. Safety DeMar Hamlin, a 77.3, And then wide receiver Khalil Shakir with a 76.8. Josh Allen, the highest graded Buffalo Bill player, at a 90.0. On Denver side of things, offensive tackle Garrett Bowles, a 79.6. Defensive tackle DJ Jones, a 79.4. Defensive tackle Zach Allen with a 77.2. Wide receiver Cortland Sutton, a 77.1. And then edge rusher Nick Benito, a 76.4. Bo Nix in this one. Better than you'd expect. 85.2, although in a losing effort, of course. Stat that told the story here, Dalton. What do we got here from this game?
Well, this game could not have gotten off to a better start for the Broncos, right?
100%. Bo Nix, a little dime to his old pal Troy Franklin. Thought he couldn't throw deep. There it was. Maybe getting Buffalo a little scared. Nah, Buffalo didn't get scared.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I've probably mentioned this before on this show or elsewhere or wherever, and it's kind of a little bit like the Ravens too. When you go into Buffalo, there's an avalanche waiting for you, and it starts with Josh Allen. I mean, that's really, he was so locked in this game. You go into Buffalo. Look, they're now 9-0 at Highmark Stadium this season. They've scored at least 30 points in 8 of those 9 games. This is why the home field advantage was so big for the Bills, because they just, whatever it is about that building, their offense is just even more supercharged than usual. And we've seen them go and play great offensive games on the road, Detroit, LA, all of that. But when they're in Buffalo, and the Bills are playing like this, Josh Allen's playing like this, good luck. I mean, 20 of 26, 272, 2 big-time throws, 85.5 passing grade, 8 carries for 46 yards and 5 first downs, because that's what Josh Allen does. He's just a freak of nature. And I think it really is, as usual, I mean, we've said this 100 times over, is if Josh Allen has time back there to hold the football and do all of the Josh Allen things, he's unstoppable. On throws 2.5 seconds or more. 10 of 13, a $187, 2 big-time throws, a 92 passing grade. It's too much to ask unless you're an elite football team, which I think they have one coming into town next week. And like you mentioned, that's going to be, you would argue that's the game of the week of the 4 of them that we're going to get. You have to be that level of team to go into Buffalo and beat them, because this offense, they're just unstoppable when they're playing at home, and Bills Mafia is going crazy in that stadium, and Allen's got time, and James Cook's got a 100-yard day, and you know, you got weapons like Curtis Samuel stepping up. I saw Dawson Knox make a big catch. Just everything going right for them, as it usually does in that stadium. Credit to the Broncos getting this far. Sean Payton did a fantastic job. Bo Nix had a spectacular rookie season, and on the rare occasion that he had the ball in this game, he was good. There's nothing the Broncos could have done about this.
No, because you're right. You talk about the Bills sort of being an inevitable offense. I mean, when Josh Allen plays the way that he plays, you're not going to stop him. When James Cook runs the ball the way that he does, that to me is actually the telltale sign. If James Cook's running the ball well, you're screwed. I don't know how you slow down this Bills offense, because it's about as balanced as it gets. And you mentioned it couldn't have started better for the Denver Broncos. They get the ball. They end up throwing a bomb touchdown to Troy Franklin. Here we come. We're in Buffalo. We're not afraid of you. And we got Bo Nix doing things that people said that Bo Nix couldn't do, throwing it deep. Now you got to account for that. All right, now the whole offense is wide open for the Denver Broncos for the entirety of the game, because you already hit the deep shot to really kind of strike fear into them and be like, all right, well, I guess they can hit that. We got to guard it a little bit more. All of that was going well for the Broncos. And I have praised the Bills for this multiple times throughout this season. When they get down on the scoreboard, 7, 10, whatever, they don't panic.
Don't matter.
They don't change their strategy. They don't just go, we better just give it to Josh Allen and just we better pass the ball at all times because he's our best player. We got to put the ball in his hands. We're down on the scoreboard. No, they remain completely balanced. Joe Brady has this cool, calm, collected way about how he has called plays. And in this game specifically, there was one drive where they had less than 8 plays. They had 3 drives with 10 plays or more, double-digit plays. This whole offense, especially when James Cook is running the way that he is so methodical. It is so multi-dimensional. It is so difficult to stop. When you look at all their receivers, you mentioned some of the guys that are there. Matt Collins, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, like all of these guys are in the mix. And when you look at their threat percentages of how often they're used in the offense when they're running routes, it's not like anybody's dominating. They don't have any of these guys that are above 25% and above. Some teams have guys that are 30% and above, right? CeeDee Lambs and Justin Jeffersons, like those kinds of players. They don't have anybody like that. They have a very diverse passing attack. And when you throw into the mix James Cook running the football very well, there's too many weapons to stop. They're too okay with putting the ball in a multitude of playmakers' hands that runs about 6, 7, 8 players deep. So to me, that was the big story. The stat that told the story in this game is that the Bills' balance on offense. I'm once again praising it because especially if they're able to run the football in this way, you better score more than 30 because Buffalo's scoring more than 30. And that was the case in this game. Is the Broncos came out, they threw a haymaker early, they connected, and they get outscored 31-0 whole rest of the game. So we'll get into defense in a second, but to me, that's a stat that told the story. If you got anything on that, I'd love to hear it, but if not, most impressive, most disappointing.
You know the craziest part about that? They played this well on offense, and Allen was this good, and they scored 31 unanswered. They were 1 for 5 in the red zone.
Wow, I didn't even realize that.
They could have the fifth one was a kneel down with Trubisky at the end, but
okay.
they were. But
so
even
one for 4.
Even with Trubisky in the game, they were moving the ball on the ground. I mean, 1 for 5. They could have scored 50 in this game if they just executed it even slightly better in the red zone too. It was, you could argue they scored 31 and there was still parts of it that were a little bit off, which is just silly. No, I mean, I think they got in Broncos territory on all but one drive on the day. I mean, the Denver, again, this is one, if you're Sean Payton, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and go, yeah, no, wasn't happening. I actually thought going into it, this game would be closer and Denver would put up a better fight than, not that they didn't fight. I mean, there was just, again, there's nothing they could have done. This Bills team in Buffalo, this is what they are. And now that they get a rematch with the Ravens, and the Ravens were the team that dominated them more than any other this season. I think you could argue it's the worst matchup of any team in the playoffs for them, but you're in that building and you have 17 and you have Joe Brady the way he's calling it.
Yep.
You certainly have a chance.
Yep. Most impressive, most disappointing. What do you got?
And most impressive, you have an offensive line that is mauling people. And I don't think there's a ton of maybe household names here. A lot of people know Deion Dawkins, but David Edwards, Connor McGovern, Osiris Torrance, Spencer Brown.
Spencer Brown playing well.
This team's been really good up front all season. And this was a 76.2 grade for that starting offensive line this year. Second best of the whole season. Third game this year with both a 70 pass blocking grade and run blocking grade. And 2.1 yards before carry, or yards before contact per design carry. Anytime you're at 2 yards and above, you're doing elite stuff. The only teams who've carried that all year are the Eagles and the Ravens because, of course, right? I mean, it's that too. It's this offensive line. And again, they may not have a Penei Sewell or a Tristan Wirfs or some superstar household name, but they've just been really good as a unit all year. They'll bring in Alec Anderson as the 6th guy, and they'll run 6 offensive linemen out there more than any other team in the league. And they bull you. They play a physical brand of football too, like you mentioned. When they get James Cook going, and we mentioned Ty Johnson also with between the way he's running the ball, and Josh Allen calls him the best third down back in the league, and that catch that he made in the back of the end zone, that was really the backbreaker, right? With Allen rolling to his right, and Johnson coming all the way from the left sideline, all the way across in the back of the end zone to make a terrific catch. I mean, the multitude of weapons, the excellent play on the offensive line, the inhuman quarterback, the whole thing, and this building, when they put it all together, this is what they can look like. Now they have to put it together against the Ravens and maybe the Chiefs and then whoever else if they're going to get the Super Bowl that's eluded them forever. But this was a game where the Broncos, I don't usually like to go with the outclassed thing, but that's kind of where we were with
I think
this.
they were just the better team. And honestly, If the Broncos were going to beat them in any category, it felt like it would have been the Broncos' interior offensive line, which has been mauling people all year. Quinn Miners has been a big reason for that, against a Bills run defense unit that has struggled this year, been one of the worst in the NFL, bottom 5 in the NFL in run defense grade from their interior defensive linemen. Well, Bills run defense grade in this game, a 76.0. Now, they got some help because the corners were really rallying to help. The safeties had some high run defense grades as well. The linebacker level was good. The edge rushers were doing a good job in containing. So it wasn't like a world beater day from Buffalo's interior defensive line, but it was good enough. And I think the team as a whole was fantastic in run defense. And so if there was any area, again, where I thought the Broncos could have taken some advantage in this game, it would have been with how they controlled the interior part of Buffalo's defensive line, and they absolutely stepped up to the challenge in the playoffs, which is good to see. And the most disappointing thing, outside of just the Broncos' run game, I felt like it was a little bit disappointing. And again, just the interior blocking that has been so dominant all season long that really struggled. Mike McGlinchey struggled. Quinn Miners' grade was lower than what it has been throughout many games this season. As one of the best offensive linemen that we had in the NFL this past year. The coverage was also a big-time struggle, man. I mean, we got people, deservingly so, voting for Patrick Surtain II as Defensive Player of the Year because of how well he has played. He was the number one defensive player in our wins above average metric that we have at PFF. And this past game, Broncos coverage as a team, 30.1. Surtain, you see it there, a 49.2 coverage grade. Riley Moss, a 45.2. PJ Locke, their safety, a 28.5. It just straight up wasn't good enough. And again, when the Bills have as much success on the ground as they do with James Cook and Josh Allen the way that they did this past game, and then you factor in all of the people that they can throw at a secondary of different shapes and sizes and speeds and styles, it's tough. You can't get a beat on this because 1 second you're covering Keon Coleman, the next second you're covering Khalil Shakir, the next second you're covering a running back out of the backfield, the Ty Johnson, the next second you're covering Dawson Knox, whatever it is. It's just really difficult to get into a groove and understand the assignment that you have, the coverage assignment that you have. And I think Buffalo's offensive diversity just really took a toll on the Broncos coverage unit, and they really struggled in this game.
And their play action concepts are just fantastic from any personnel grouping. They could have 2 tight ends or an extra offensive lineman out there. They could be spread out. They've just got so many different ways they can beat you. Plus, Allen in the design run game as well. The one thing I want to highlight for the Broncos, just their linebackers, this is a spot on their defense they need to get better. I believe they were 4th up front in our grading for defensive linemen for this season. 9th in the secondary, 27th at linebacker. And you've got Cody Barton and Justin Strnad are 2 guys who have kind of identified in a lot of games this year who have struggled. Drew Sanders has hardly played through his first 2 years in the league. I think if there's anywhere we're looking at this Broncos team needing to add on defense, it's at linebacker. They patched it together because the front end and the back end were really good, but that second level, especially when you're talking about playing a team like the Bills and trying to get on that level of competition with these elite teams, the Bills are a team that attacks linebackers as well as anybody. Or if you're playing the Ravens and Henry and Lamar are coming at you, you got to be great at that spot. Or the Chiefs know how to attack linebackers. You want to get on that level, that elite level in the AFC, they got to get better at linebacker. They got 2 layers that are really good on defense. They got to fix the 3rd one.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can come one today.